Hello, my name is Sally Brennan-Tubbs, and this presentation is on the historical Nassawango Iron Furnace in FURNACETOWN. The Nassawango Iron Furnace, built in 1830 in Snow Hill, Maryland, is a fascinating example of the industrial capability of America during the early Industrial Revolution and is now a unique historical and community site. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places inventory in 1975. In 1991, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers named it a National Historical Mechanical Engineering Landmark. In 1732, iron-making was encouraged by the Maryland legislative government. It passed an exploratory act entitled An Act to Encourage Adventurers in Ironworks, which provided acreage to teams of men who promised to produce pig iron within 7 years. In 1829, the Maryland Iron Company, with the endorsement of the Maryland Governor Daniel Martin, erected the furnace to smelt iron ore from bog ore formations in the vicinity of the furnace. The Nassawango Iron Furnace was not the only furnace in Maryland. As early as 1761, there were 18 furnaces in Maryland producing over 2,500 tons of pig iron per year. During the Revolutionary War, furnaces from Principal County and Catoctin in Frederick County supplied bar iron and cannonballs to the Continental Army, and during the War of 1812 produced cannon hardware, cannonballs, and guns for the government. The Nassawango Iron Furnace was the only furnace in Maryland to make extensive use of bog ore deposits along the Pocomoke River Basin. The most extensive deposits can be found along Nassawango Creek, a few miles northwest of Snow Hill. This furnace was originally built to produce pig iron through a cold blast process, and by 1836, two of the company's creditors, Arthur Milby and Joseph Waples, foreclosed on the property and sold it to Benjamin Jones as an ironmonger from Philadelphia. In 1837, Thomas Spence of Worcester County leased the furnace from Benjamin Jones and began producing pig iron at a rate of 700 tons per year. Spence is credited with installing a hot blast stove on the top of the existing furnace, which mimicked a recent design of hot blast furnaces in England. The hot blast technology discovered in England was considered one of the most important developments in blast furnace technology. This technology raised the temperature of the stove and accelerated the combustion process and decreased the amount of charcoal fuel needed and significantly increased the production of iron. This development was important because the production of charcoal to fuel the furnace was labor-intensive. To accommodate a large labor force required to operate these furnaces, villages were developed to provide housing and other community services to the labor force. FURNACETOWN, originally called Nascongo, is one of those villages. This 25-acre town supported approximately 300 people at its peak in production. The town provided its residents with a bank, general store, blacksmith, school, church, and post office. Thomas Spence successfully produced iron at the Nassawango Iron Furnace, sending pig iron by ship to Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York until 1847. However, due to poor market conditions and shortages in labor, Thomas Spence shut down the furnace in 1850. Other circumstances that led to the closure of Nassawango Iron Furnace was the discovery of extensive and higher quality ore deposits in Michigan, Minnesota, and Alabama, and the railroad industry. From 1850 to 1880, 15 to 20 people remained in FURNACETOWN, operating a grist mill and boarding house because this was a main route on the stagecoach. But other than the brick furnace, little was left by the turn of the century. Before the area was completely abandoned, one resident lived alone in Nascongo for 20 years. After operations at the furnace ended, Samson Harmon, a free African American, refused to leave his small little home behind. He kept to himself, growing a small garden and feeding the stray cats left behind until, at the reported age of 106, he was convinced by county officials to move to the almshouse at Snow Hill. His final wish was to be buried at the old furnace, but his request was denied, and he was buried in Snow Hill. Kathy Fisher, the director of FURNACETOWN, states, "He lived here for so long you get a sense of his spirit. Not a ghost, but his spirit remains part of the town." FURNACETOWN and the iron furnace sat abandoned for nearly 100 years, gradually disappearing due to decay, forest overgrowth, and souvenir hunters. In the early 1900s, Residents from Snow Hill would venture into the woods near the furnace for picnics. Although a popular location, it would take a devastating fire in the 1930s that engulfed a large majority of the forested area to uncover what had been buried beneath the brush and decay since 1850 to the public. Frank Jones, a descendant of one of the furnace families, came to the furnace's rescue. He worked with the Worcester County Historical Society to implement a plan for clearing and rebricking the furnace according to guidelines set by an archaeologist hired to explore the site and to extrapolate legend from fact. In conjunction with the restoration of FURNACETOWN and the Nassawango Iron Furnace, the Nature Conservancy of Maryland has purchased 3,500 acres around FURNACETOWN to serve as a nature preserve. This nature preserve will prevent development in the area of Nassawango Creek, which contains century-old cypress trees and is home to dozens of rare birds and plants, including 15 types of orchids. In 1977, the Worcester County Historical Society's 30-year restoration plan began in earnest when a group of volunteer amateur archaeologists began to explore the furnace site and mapping the location for building sites and other artifacts. The Worcester County Historical Society also utilized prisoners from Poplar Hill Correctional Camp as paid laborers to help clean up debris, trash, and overgrown foliage away from the site. Renovations began on the furnace itself. The missing bricks on the furnace were replaced with bricks from a chimney of a home built in Snow Hill in 1640. Because the entire town was left to decay for 100 years, the Worcester County Historical Society replaced every building with a similar building built during the same period or earlier from around Worcester and Somerset County. The first building to be replaced in FURNACETOWN was the old St. Mary's Parish House from Pocomoke City to an area near a site that once housed a Methodist church. This building now houses the FURNACETOWN Museum. The Mount Zion one-room schoolhouse was built in 1859 and was one of many one-room schoolhouses in Maryland from the middle of the 19th century through the first part of the 20th century. In 2016, the Mount Zion one-room schoolhouse was moved to its current location at FURNACETOWN. Between 1977 and 2016, 9 additional early 19th century buildings were donated to the FURNACETOWN Foundation to be used in the recreation of FURNACETOWN. When the Nassawango Iron Furnace was operable, the blacksmith shop would have created and repaired all the tools required to operate the furnace. The blacksmith shop is especially interesting as it has 2 working forges and blacksmiths are on hand several days a week for demonstrations. Additional early 19th century buildings on the property include a broom house with fully functioning equipment for broom making, a farm implement building with examples of farm tools of the period, a print shop, spinning house, weave house, woodworker shop, and the Old Nazareth Church. Built in 1874, the Old Nazareth Church was originally a Methodist church. When it ceased to be used by the Methodist Conference, the building was donated to FURNACETOWN in 1980. In 1992, FURNACETOWN celebrated its 30th year since the Worcester County Historical Society first undertook the preservation of the town. The FURNACETOWN Foundation has not only created a site to view the historically significant hot blast furnace, it has created a place for visitors to experience the past and provides not only a museum but a gathering place to learn, socialize, and participate in community events. Along with being a place to learn about the crafts of weaving, broom making, and blacksmithing, visitors can learn about the types of farm implements used in the early 19th century as well as spinning techniques. The woodworking shop was important to FURNACETOWN as everything was built from wood cut from the surrounding forest. In 1993, renowned German furniture maker Ernest Glaser donated everything in his wood shop, including over 3,000 historic tools, to the FURNACETOWN Foundation. Aside from the historical significance of the Nassawango Iron Furnace, FURNACETOWN has grown into a popular venue for town festivals, weddings, Renaissance fairs, and concerts. Today, FURNACETOWN's community outreach goes beyond a venue for special occasions. Locals and tourists can participate in artisan days, yoga classes, guided night hikes through the nature preserve, and a bike race called Iron Furnace 50, which is a fundraiser to benefit the upkeep of FURNACETOWN. Thank you.